Hey there, Heather. Ho there. It's Jeff Cutter. I'm welcome you to yet another Cutter Top 10 sports video. And today we're going to be looking at the top 10 Toronto Raptors players of all time wearing the Raptors jersey of my hero, Kyle Lowry, and all that. And yes, Kyle Lowry is on this list. So, anyway, the Toronto Raptors were born in 1995 alongside the Vancouver Grizzlies, and Canada had basketball for the first time ever. So, it was just amazing to see and all that. What could happen and all that. So the Raptors won their first ever game against the New Jersey Nets, and then, they were champs almost 25 years later. They've been a franchise of highs and lows, and, almost paralleling the Toronto Maple Leafs and Toronto Blue Jays, basically being good teams that just couldn't get to the dance. There were some honorable mentions to the top 10 players. Antonio Davis was a great inside work. Serge Ibaka, when he was a Raptor, was very good. Tracy McGrady in his only 3 seasons with the Raptors before leaving for Orlando. And Jose Calderon was also a good player, too. Here are the top 10. Number 10, Mo Pete, as in Morris Peterson, the man from Michigan State who won the national championship in 2000 with what they called the Flintstones because the great players for Michigan State were from Flint, Michigan. Anyway, Mo Pete was drafted in the first round, and the Raptors had this guard and small forward who could produce, and he was. He was a model consistency and professionalism, playing the most games in Raptors history for many years. He had strong defense, timely shooting, and leadership, and the Raptors really valued him. They really did. Number 24 will always be great. Number 9 is Fred Van Fleet. This was the story, one of the most underrated, undrafted players in NBA history. Van Fleet was a star for Wichita State. The great Rob Barziger would have agreed with me. But yeah, Wichita was known for being a good school that just couldn't get over the hump. Nevertheless, Van Fleet was a pretty good player, and the Raptors took a chance on him, signing him to a contract after he was undrafted. He was undersized. Van Fleet would actually make his way through the bench, but by 2019, he actually was key in a massive playoff run that led us to the championship. He had clutch shooting, defensive grit, and leadership. I kind of knew Van Fleet was underrated as a bench player, but he came off the bench. He started. He was pretty good. He had his 3 pointers. He actually had a 54-point game, which is the team scoring record for one game. Not even Vince Carter could do that. But Fred Van Fleet was pretty impressive. It was sad seeing him leave for Houston and all that because, he was a good Raptor. Number 8 is Damon Stoudemire. Damon was the first draft pick in Raptors history. Of course, that was controversial in itself, but not for the way you think it is. So the Raptors were in the expansion draft, and the NBA decided in their infinite wisdom to have a coin flip between who would be picking fifth and who would be picking sixth. They wanted the Raptors and Grizzlies to draft high, but they didn't want them to draft 1, 2. Most NHL teams would do that. But no, they put them at number 5 and number 6. The Grizzlies won the coin flip and chose first in the entry draft. The Raptors would draft first in the expansion draft. But yeah, the Grizzlies took Big Country Bryant Reeves, which was a good move, and then all of a sudden, the Raptors were on the clock. The funny thing was the NBA draft was held in the Sky Dome and all that. And so fans were actually chanting, we want Ed, as in Ed O'Banion, who was the MVP, or what the NCAA calls the MOP, of the 2000 tournament, the 1995 tournament, in which UCLA finally, after 20 years of trying to win a title without the presence of John Wooden nearby, they beat Arkansas, of course, pissing me off in the process. But anyway, Damon Stoudemire would be picked. A good point guard from Arizona. Arizona had some great teams and all that. However, the fans booed the pick ferociously because of the fact that they wanted Ed O'Banion. The Nets would pick him up 2 picks later. And ironically enough, in the first ever Raptor game, Damon would face O'Banion. But Damon shocked a lot of people by winning the Rookie of the Year award in 1996. He was a bright spot and established Toronto's basketball culture for all time. He was good for 3 years and then demanded a trade and got shipped to Portland. The fact of the matter, yeah, and we know about the Portland and the weed culture and David Stoudemire's stupidity at the airport wrapping weed in tinfoil. But anyhow, David Stoudemire shocked a lot of people. And Ed O'Bannon, well, he was just a flop. And of course, Ed O'Bannon is hated by a lot of sports gamers, especially for the NCAA football and basketball franchises, because he was the guy who had a legal case against people using their likeness and all that. I mean, I understand the likeness, but dude, we're gonna know your number and we're gonna make rosters based on that and change your look, all that. But yeah, he took that concept back years as NCAA football didn't have a game between 2014 and 2025, 24, sorry. And NCAA basketball hasn't been back since 2010. Like, for real? Fuck that guy, Ed O'Bannon. Thank God he didn't play for Toronto. Number 7 is Jonas Valanciunas, Valanciunas, the name that Charles Barkley just couldn't pronounce completely or spell right. However, Jonas was also a major draft pick who made fans wrong. Ironically, of course, Valanciunas basically made a liar out of me personally. When he was drafted 5th overall in 2011, I went on a rant saying, we picked this guy from Lithuania up when we could have gotten, I believe it was the guy from UConn, Kemba Walker. I mean, Kemba Walker worked out well for Charlotte and all that, but yeah, I wish I had Kemba Walker. But Jonas went through the ranks, and then by 2015, he made me eat fucking crow. He had scoring and rebounding for 7 seasons. He is among the Raptors' all-time leaders in rebounds and games played, a strong presence in the paint, and we miss him. But Valanciunas was basically the carrot that the Raptors dangled to Memphis to get Marc Gasol, who helped us win the title. So, anything for a buck. Number 6 is Spicy P, Pascal Siakam. Siakam was a late first round pick from New Mexico State. It was like, how many players from New Mexico State made an impact in the NBA? Only one, Sam Lacey. Siakam's journey from late first round pick to NBA All Star and champion is remarkable. In 2019, when the Raptors won the title, he was actually the MIP, the Most Improved Player award. People, they give an award for people who have improved and all that. Baseball gives a Comeback Player of the Year award. Football, I think, does too. I don't think hockey does that, in a sense. Well, the Masterton kind of is the Comeback Player of the Year award. But anyway, he won the Most Improved Player in 2019. He was a bench player, and then he started to come off the bench, and then he became the center star at power forward. And he played a key role in the championship run. Scoring, defensive versatility, he was pretty much a fan favorite. And of course, I think he's still with the team where we dumped him off. I think we dumped him off. Yeah, he's with the Pacers. That's right. Number 5 is Kawhi Leonard. I know he should have been higher, but because the guy only played one freaking year for the Raptors, I can't put him that high. At least I put him top 5. Kawhi was a star for San Antonio, coming out of San Diego State, which didn't really have any NBA representation. But Kawhi made being an Aztec cool, right, Nick Rice? Anyhow, Kawhi Leonard was pretty big and all that for the Spurs. He was named MVP, Finals MVP, when the Spurs got rid of the Miami Big Three in the 2014 championship, trying to go for a three-peat. Unfortunately, Kawhi's time in San Antonio would last until 2018 when he left the team because of them mishandling his injury. So the Raptors made a massive trade with the Spurs and dumped off one of their best players of all time, who's actually number 2 on this list, just to get Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi made a weird impression at the press conference with his laugh, saying he's a fun guy. Unfortunately, in the internet era, he was meme worthy, and basically we were laughed at. Nevertheless, Kawhi was a great small forward when he had to be. His impact was monumental, and Kawhi carried the team on his back in the playoffs. He was named Finals MVP and all that. But his finals performance was good. But if it weren't for his leadership and responsibility in the second round against the Sixers in Game 7, it could be a what if. Anyway, Kawhi, we all know the shot. Philly, Toronto tied at 90. 2.5 seconds left. Leonard gets the ball, goes to the corner, shoots a fadeaway jumper, bounce, 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 in. And Kevin Harlan screamed, "Game, series, Toronto has won." So that was just amazing and all that. His shot saved the Raptors in a sense. The Raptors went on to beat the Bucks and the Warriors for the title, and Kawhi was big. Everyone thought Kawhi was going to come back because, I mean, you lead the team to a title, you might as well stay behind. But no, he went to the Clippers. The vitriol I spewed at Kawhi after he left for the Clippers was just stupid. Kawhi's done decently for the Clippers in the past, but the fact is he could have stayed in Toronto. It'd be a what if? What if Kawhi stayed in Toronto? Maybe he stays if the Raptors don't win a title. Basically, he was title hunting, and then after one season, he leaves Toronto. It's just pathetic and inexcusable. Number 4 is Vince Carter. Yeah, Vince Carter. He put the Raptors on the map with his electrifying dunks and high real athleticism. But funny fact, people forget that Vince Carter was not actually drafted by the Raptors. Really? Yep, that's true. Well, it's the 1998 draft, and the Toronto Raptors and the Golden State Warriors draft people from North Carolina. The Raptors didn't draft Vince Carter, the Warriors did. Who did Toronto draft? Oh, some guy by the name of Anton Jameson. Pretty good player. So the Raptors and Warriors easily swapped picks. So Carter went to Toronto, Anton went to Golden State. It actually worked out. The Warriors could use Anton Jameson, and he was decent for them. Anyway, Carter would be a Raptor, and his highlight reel would be big. In after his second season, the U.S. team went to the Olympics in Sydney in 2000, and Vince Carter had the dunk de l'amour, or the dunk of death, over Frederick Weiss, 6'9". Somehow he dunked over him. It was amazing. That was a great time in 2000 for him. Of course, he won the slam dunk contest in 2000. Basically, everyone wanted to give him the trophy after his first dunk, which was a 360 against the grain. It was like amazing. And his third dunk, with the help of T-Mac, put them on the board. It would have been easy to see that Carter wasted his best efforts before the slam dunk final. But in the final round, he did it with the honey dip, like the arm into the bucket. Vince Carter is a legend and all that. Of course, yeah, 2000 was a good year for him. And Frederick Weiss would never play in the NBA. He inspired an entire generation of Canadian basketball players, but unfortunately, Carter, in his last few years as a Raptor, would be injury prone with a capital I. The fact of the matter is that, without Vince Carter, the Raptors would falter, like without him and all that. Unfortunately, though, Carter by 2004 was sulking because Dr. J was supposed to be the general manager or somewhere in the Raptors organization. He wanted Dr. J to be there, but Dr. J refused. So maybe basically Rob Babcock made things worse as GM. Carter would then decide not to dunk because he didn't want to give the fans what they wanted and all that. People called him selfish, immature, basically a mama's boy because Mama Carter would bitch to the coaches about stuff with Vince. Vince did miss that big shot in 2001 that would have sent the Raptors to the Eastern Finals against the Bucks. But anyway, Vince Carter would be traded to New Jersey. The Nets were in New Jersey at the time. And the Raptors didn't get much back in return. Alonzo Mourning would have been great as a Raptor, in the twilight of his career. But no, he decided not to play for Toronto. Fuck that. And Carter would go on to be electrifying, help the Nets out, beating the Raptors in the 2007 playoffs. That was basically the nail in the coffin. Fortunately, though, Raptor fans softened, and by 2015, they forgave Carter for his selfish acts. They even gave him a massive standing ovation every time he played for opposition in Toronto for years. And his number 15 is the first number in the Raptors. of the Air Canada Center for basketball. Number 3 is Oh My Bosch, as in Chris Bosch, a consistent all-star and versatile big man. Once Carter basically sulked his way to New Jersey, Bosch would be the face of the franchise, leading the team in scoring and rebounding for several seasons. Bosch was the number 4 pick, I'd like to say, in the famous 2003 draft. So Cleveland picked LeBron. Detroit took Darko Milicic, of all people. They could have had Melo. They could have had Bosch. They could have had Dwayne Wade, but they didn't. Melo went to Denver. Bosch then went to Toronto with the 4th pick, and Melo a few picks later went to and D Wade went to Miami a few picks later. Man, can you imagine that 2003 draft, one of the best drafts of all time? Take away Darko Milicic, and I think it compares to the '96 draft class. But the fact is that Chris Bosh was a Toronto Raptor coming from Georgia Tech, in which they actually lost the NCAA championship. I think, right? Yeah, they lost it to UConn. But yeah, Chris Bosh was a good player and all that for the Raptors. And then in 2010, he decided to leave in free agency and go to Miami alongside LeBron and D Wade. So it was funny to see Miami's big 3. They all played in the two. They all were drafted in 2003 by different teams, and then they were all together. Raptor fans would feel betrayed and all that. Unfortunately, Bosch would actually be injury prone, and I think there was a heart problem, wasn't there? I know Ed Curry did, but Chris Bosch. But nevertheless, the Raptor fans softened in their stance against him. Number 2 is DeMar DeRozan. He embodied the Raptor spirit for nearly a decade. Drafted from USC, which is more of a football school than a basketball school. Sorry, but come on. USC has a football legacy that stretches time in space. He was a 4-time All-Star as a Raptor, all-time among the franchise's all-time leaders in points, games played, and minutes. His loyalty and dynamic scoring made him a fan favorite and a fundamental piece of the team's growth. So anyway, yeah, DeMar doing his job. He was good, and he was the face of the Raptors post Bosch, post Carter, and all that. Of course, it was shocking to see DeMar be dealt to those pesky Spurs in exchange for Kawhi Leonard. It kind of worked out. It was kind of a win-win trade. I mean, DeRozan did decently for San Antonio and a few other teams after Toronto, but I feel like trading away the face of the franchise just to get Kawhi Leonard was not a smart move. Little did I know that the Raptors would be celebrating a championship in 2019. And number 1, by no stretch, and this is not because of it. That's just the way this research was. It's got to be Kyle Lowry, number 7 on your play card. And soon to have his number retired. Allegedly, NBA 2K26 spoiled it with a banner with number 7 on it. But I don't think so. But anyway, Kyle Lowry is regarded as the greatest Raptor of all time. He had hard hustle, leadership, and basically didn't whine and complain about things. Unlike DeMar, unlike Chris Bosh, he was not drafted as a Raptor. He was actually a Houston Rocket, I think, and a Memphis Grizzly. Yeah, I think it went from Memphis to Houston and to Toronto. And Kyle Lowry was from Villanova, back when Villanova was trying to get their basketball footing up. Yeah, Kyle Lowry led the team and was a 6-time All-Star with the team. He was big, coming from Houston to Toronto, and people thought this was a bad trade. But no, he made it look like a good trade. And Lowry finally found his footing in Toronto and found out he could be a leader. And he did. He got it, and he is the franchise's all-time leader in assists and steals to this day. It's like one of the best moments around for being a Toronto Raptor. And Kyle Lowry would be big. And, lucky 7. It doesn't hurt to have that number and all that. So I'm hoping Kyle Lowry will have his number retired this season. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do